Hey, this is Dan Funk. I'm here with John here, and one of our core contributors. Today, he's going to go over how to set up a full development environment so that you can, uh, potentially fork SpiffWorkflow, spin this thing up, make code changes, and submit it in as pull requests and contribute to our project. So I'm going to stop talking at you. I'm going to hand it over to John. He's going to start presenting how to do this.
Sounds good. Thank you, Dan. So like Dan was saying, if you are not a core contributor already, anything else, we're going to go ahead and copy the Git URL. We're going to make a new directory. We'll call it demo, cd into demo, and we're just going to do a git clone of spiff-arena. So what we're about to show you is a setup that we have with local Docker containers. If you don't have Docker or don't like Docker, you don't have to do this. You can install everything natively or locally on the system. But just for simplicity, we're going to run it through Docker. So what we're going to do is we just go into our demo or our spiff-arena checkout, and we're just going to run make. And this is going to go for a minute or 4. But what it's going to do is create all the dev containers for the backend, which is a Flask Python app, and the front end, which is a React application. And it'll also install all the dev dependencies that you need to run like our linters and unit tests. So after this builds and installs everything, it's also going to go ahead and run all the lint checks, just so you can make sure that everything is good to go when you get started.
And nice. So it's building all of this, it's going to build these Docker containers from the source code that you're checking out right at this moment, right?
Yeah, correct. And so, yeah, the Docker containers themselves only have the very basic dependencies that you need. Like the backend Docker container has Python, and the front end has Node, JavaScript, those kind of things. And then what it's going to do is it's going to mount the source tree as a volume into the container. And then it's going to run poetry installs and npm installs that are going to end up installing the files locally for you. But since everything is mounted into the containers, you don't need the core dependencies. Like you could actually do this on a machine that didn't have Node or Python installed, or SQLite, or anything else.
Nice.
Yeah, but since
it'll spin up SQLite. That's the database that it's going to use in this
correct.
Configuration. Got it.
Correct, and our debug OpenID server, so that you can log in without needing, an actual OpenID system,
Cloak or something like that.
Correct. Yeah, correct. Exactly. And since this is all done through mounted containers, you get the benefit of not having to install everything locally, but you also get all the local editing of files. So you never have to rebuild the containers. Like if you change a dependency or change like a node package.
So if I want to edit these files, I have to connect into the Docker container?
No, you actually just open them up like they would be any other file on your system.
Okay, so I'm just editing the files as they were checked out.
Yeah, correct. That's right.
But and then they're mounted into these Docker containers that are actually running it and have Python installed and everything like that.
Yes, that's right. That's exactly right. So really, yeah, exactly. You don't have to have poetry local. You don't have to have the same version of Python that we use locally. You don't have to, go through those steps.
Yeah, that's pretty stunning. So, I mean, it's just one line. You just run make, and your entire development environment is set up, and you don't have any of the headaches of setting up all the different pieces and parts to get this running locally.
Yes, correct.
But at the same time, you just you can edit the files, and it's live. It's live editing. You can make the change and it's instantly in the running application.
It is instantly in the running application. Sometimes with our application, you have to reload the browser. And I've not actually figured out what that is, but the code is live. So if you change the backend request, or if you change a TSX file and do what you need to do to navigate or to refresh, it's all there. Yeah. And we're actually almost done.
Nice.
So really quickly, what this did, like I was saying, we went through, we installed all the poetry dependencies, we set up the database, ran all the migrations. prep the database for parallel unit test execution, install the front-end dependencies, spun up the containers, and then as a sanity check, we just go through and so we do all the back-end linting, the front-end linting, the back-end linting, and then we run our test suite, which is a parallel execution of that. We also run like MyPy, you know, all those things that you would want to do. So now, if we go back here, we should have a working version of spiff-arena. Sometimes this first load takes a second while everything gets spun up.
Because the whole front end environment is building.
Yeah, that's correct. And I was also going to show you that there's a lot of different make targets that we have. So like, for instance, you can see like the front end logs at any point in time. You can see the back end logs. You can even shell into the containers. Like if you need to go into the front end container to run, you know, like one-off npm commands, you can do that. Same thing with the back end. If you need to go into the backend container and, you know, execute any debugging kind of poetry.
Very nice.
Yeah, and you can also do any of the steps that were run initially one-off. So, for instance, like if you just want to go run the tests in parallel, you can start doing that. You can also tell it like just run the integration test or just run the unit test or just run this one test file, whatever you happen to want to do. So all of those commands are in the make file and can be run individually.
I guess this dumb like question, because I don't know make very well, but is there a way to list out all the make commands that are available?
Yeah, so I'm actually not entirely sure natively. I know that the terminal or shell that I'm using has
and like an autocomplete.
Yeah, so you can come in here and yeah, exactly. And then you can look at it and it's not perfect, but it does show you what you can do. You know, so you can do things like you can clean the DB, you can rerun all the migrations, you can just run the front end lint fixes. We actually have this kind of cool thing where you can go in here and check for code that's not used. Like I've done this a couple times. And this will install a dev package. But, you know, to find like dependencies in the front end and things that are not imported, things like that. You know, so like if you wanted this to be a contribution, you could come in here and see, you know, like, is this really not used? You could probably go poke around in the front end.
Nice.
Check that out. Yeah. Okay. So, oh, sorry, we're back here. I forgot we had this. So when you first load up spiff-arena, you're presented with this login screen, which is admin. Go in here and log into it, and we'll see that we have a brand new fresh install of spiff-arena. We don't have any processes yet because we haven't created any here. But one thing I was going to show you is you had that question about can we change the code. So there are no open instances here. Like let's say that like this label, we want to change this, right? Okay, here we go.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, okay, this is
okay.
One. All right, so what we're looking for here is like there are no open instances. You start it at this time here, and so like, you know, we want to make a change where this label will be there are no the big question.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. You know, we can come in here and refresh it, and
boom, those questions. Nice.
Yeah, and
nice.
See the code change working. And the same thing would happen for the back end. So if you made changes to the back end and resent an API request, it would be available for you as well.
Fast, yeah.
Yeah, and then just one other thing that I wanted to show you super quickly is that so the way this is kind of set up is that the getting started guide that was written a long time back, which is really cool, has a set of Docker containers, one for the front end, one for the back end, and one for a connector proxy, etc. And so this is all built on top of those. And so you can go through and you can see how the back end and front end are set up. There's a plethora of environment variables that you can set. So part of the reason why we didn't have any bpmin models right now was because we're pointed at an empty process model directory because we did a clean checkout. But you can, for instance, we're just going to copy a file. So over here in my normal spiff-arena, I have a .env file, and we're going to put it right here. So we allow you to set, you can either set these in the Docker Compose files, but if you want a way that's not going to be in Git, you can come in here. And so since we're a little level deeper, we're going to do this. But we're going to come in here and we are going to restart the servers.
Cool. And we're restarting them this time because we've changed like an environment variable that exists inside that Docker container.
Yeah, correct. Exactly. And so normally if you're making a code change, you wouldn't have to restart unless you're changing some code that is like fundamental to the boot, you know, the booting process of the server or something like that. But
right.
Yeah, correct. You would not normally have to do this. But now we get to come back. We're going to see everything reload. And
it just takes, takes another second for that front end to come back up. But yeah,
yep.
It's not bad.
And now we go. And now we have process models.
Very slick. Very slick.
Yeah. So you can go through there. You can use those env files. You can set, you know, set your configuration in such a way that it makes sense for you. You could, you know, change your process models. You can change Docker Compose files and use a different database, a different connector proxy. You know, anything that you need, but it should be all there for you.
Wow, that was wonderful, John. So really it's like check out spiff-arena, run make, and you've got a dev environment set up. That's literally it. You can start making changes. You can send pull requests into us. We can take those and merge them in, and you can be a core contributor on SpiffWorkflow as well.
That's exactly right.
So yeah, I don't think you could make it any easier than that. That was awesome. Thank you very much, sir.
Sure thing. Absolutely.